Do you ever lie awake at night, or find yourself drifting through your day, questioning if the person you're with is truly the right one for you? It might just be a fleeting thought, one of those that surfaces when the initial excitement fades, or during quiet moments when you're left alone with your feelings. You probably try to dismiss it thinking every relationship has its difficulties, right? But we both know that when doubt becomes more than a fleeting thought, it's worth exploring why it's there. Love can be intricate. It's raw, vulnerable, and often messy. Yet it shouldn't feel like a perpetual internal struggle. There's a clear distinction between navigating typical relationship hurdles and forcing yourself to fit into something that simply doesn't align with who you are. Despite this, many of us hold on to relationships that feel off, not because we're content, but because we're scared of what lies beyond. Let's be realistic for a moment. Identifying the signs that you're with the wrong person isn't easy. It demands courage to honestly assess your relationship and confront difficult questions. However, by doing so, you reclaim your agency. You begin to prioritize your inner peace, your aspirations, and your capacity for personal growth. Today, we'll delve into those very signs, the ones we often overlook or rationalize away. This video aims to provide you with clarity and confidence in understanding the truth about your relationship. So, let's dive in. Before we start, please remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on more valuable videos like this. Let's get going. You're constantly walking on eggshells. If you're perpetually worried about saying the wrong thing, it might be time to question if what you're experiencing is truly love or simply fear. Emotional safety forms the bedrock of any healthy relationship, and without it, love can quickly devolve into a struggle for survival. You might find yourself meticulously weighing every word before speaking, second-guessing your tone, or replaying conversations in your mind to pinpoint where you might have erred. It's utterly draining, isn't it? To constantly navigate a minefield in what should feel like a sanctuary. Consider this for a moment. Have you ever felt a knot of tension before raising an issue? Perhaps you wanted to discuss something simple. How their habits impact you, a minor miscommunication, or even a boundary you wish to establish. Yet, your heart races at the mere thought of their potential reaction. Will they become defensive, dismiss your feelings, or skillfully twist the conversation until you're the one apologizing? This isn't love, it's self-preservation. A healthy relationship doesn't resemble a courtroom where you're constantly pleading your case just to avoid conflict. Let's connect this to Stoicism for a moment. Marcus Aurelius famously stated, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Emotional safety begins with understanding that while you cannot control your partner's reactions, you can control your response to the situation. If their behavior consistently disrupts your peace, it's crucial to ask why you're allowing that pattern to persist. Always remember that a healthy relationship is one where you feel liberated to express yourself, without fear of judgment, ridicule, or punishment. You should be able to be your most authentic self, even in moments of vulnerability. If you're silencing your voice, suppressing your needs, or ignoring your boundaries purely to maintain peace, you're essentially trading your emotional well-being for temporary stability, and that exchange is simply not sustainable. Let's explore what this might look like on a daily basis. Perhaps you avoid asking for what you need, be it time, support, or even affection, because it's easier than dealing with their reaction. Or maybe you tread carefully around discussions about finances, future aspirations, or past mistakes because you know those topics will inevitably lead to an argument. Over time, you internalize the notion that your feelings are less important than theirs. You learn to circumvent conflict at all costs, even if it means compromising your own truth. But the stark reality is that this isn't love. Love doesn't demand that you walk on eggshells. It doesn't require you to diminish yourself or stifle your thoughts just to avoid friction. Genuine love provides space for difficult conversations, for disagreements, and even for hurt feelings, because it's built on trust not apprehension. So how do you begin to shift this dynamic? First, conduct an honest assessment of your relationship. Start by journaling about recurring patterns. Ask yourself, are there specific topics I consistently avoid because they always result in conflict? Do I feel truly heard and valued when I express my feelings, or do I feel dismissed? Am I perpetually apologizing for things I shouldn't have to apologize for? Writing things down can be incredibly insightful as it helps you grasp the broader picture. Patterns that once seemed random or insignificant begin to crystallize, and with clarity comes the capacity to make more informed decisions. Next, endeavor to practice open communication. This doesn't mean confronting your partner with anger or blame. Rather, it involves approaching the conversation with curiosity and vulnerability. For instance, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," try something like, "I sometimes feel unheard, and it's genuinely important to me that we work on this together." Notice how the focus shifts from accusation to collaboration. Of course, communication is a two-way street. If your partner is willing to meet you halfway, there's potential for growth and positive change. However, if they respond with defensiveness, gaslighting, or outright hostility, it's a clear indication that the relationship may not offer the emotional safety it needs to. Remember, your peace of mind is invaluable. Stoic philosophy encourages us to prioritize our inner world above all else. No relationship, regardless of its history or perceived potential, is worth sacrificing your emotional well-being. If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells, it's time to ask a difficult question. Are you staying because you're truly happy, or because you're afraid of what might happen if you leave? The decision to address this dynamic or to disengage, if it doesn't improve, requires immense courage. But here's the encouraging news. Every step you take towards safeguarding your peace brings you closer to the kind of relationship you truly deserve. One founded on trust, respect, and the freedom to be authentically yourself. After all, isn't that the kind of love you are worthy of? Your values and goals don't align. What happens when the person you care about envisions a future that is fundamentally different from yours? It's a challenging question, isn't it? Love can be so captivating that it convinces us it's enough to overcome any obstacle, but no amount of love can rewrite someone's life script. If your core values and aspirations are headed in opposing directions, it's akin to trying to construct a house using two entirely different blueprints. It simply won't work. Let's begin by illustrating what this looks like in everyday life. Perhaps you've always harbored a dream of traveling the world, spending months immersing yourself in new cultures and pursuing adventure. Yet, your partner desires to purchase a home in the suburbs, establish roots, and settle into a steady, predictable routine. Or perhaps you're intensely driven in your career, determined to build something substantial, while they view work merely as a means to an end and value a simpler, more leisurely pace of life. These aren't just superficial preferences, they represent fundamental aspects of who you are. Now, it's one thing to compromise on minor details, what to have for dinner, which show to binge watch. But when it pertains to the larger vision, compromise begins to feel more like a sacrifice. And here's the painful truth. If you disregard these misalignments, they don't simply vanish. They fester over time. Resentment starts to creep in, not because you don't love each other, but because you constantly feel compelled to choose between your authentic self and who they want you to be. Let's explain this even more effectively. Imagine relationships as a journey. You're both boarding the same train, but if your destinations are entirely different, what's the outcome? One of two things will occur. Either one of you abandons your dream and stays on the train for the other's sake, or you both continue, but one of you perpetually feels lost, as if you're traveling away from the life you genuinely desired. In both scenarios, there's no true victory. This isn't to suggest that individuals in a relationship need to be identical. You can possess diverse interests, personalities, and approaches to life and still make it work. However, when it comes to fundamental values such as family, career, lifestyle, and your vision for the future, alignment is crucial. Otherwise, you'll constantly be pulling in opposing directions, exhausting yourselves in the process. Have you ever engaged in a conversation with your partner about your long-term aspirations? Not just vague notions like, I want to be happy or I want to be successful, but specific, tangible goals. Do you both envision yourselves in the same type of relationship? Do you both desire children, or is one of you uncertain? Are you both prepared to make sacrifices for your careers, or does one of you prioritize stability over ambition? These aren't easy questions, but avoiding them doesn't diminish their importance. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? And in the context of relationships, the essential question revolves around alignment. Are you and your partner truly moving in the same direction, or are you staying together simply because it feels less challenging than having these difficult conversations? Alignment doesn't imply perfection. Even the most compatible couples experience moments of disagreement. But alignment signifies that at your core, your values are not in conflict. It means you both possess a shared understanding of what matters most and a willingness to build that future together. So how do you ascertain if you're aligned? Begin by having honest and frequent conversations. Don't wait until you're several years into the relationship and one of you is envisioning a wedding while the other is contemplating a solo backpacking adventure through Southeast Asia. Sit down and discuss the significant aspects. Be direct, yet compassionate. For example, what do you see your life looking like in 5 or 10 years? How do you feel about starting a family someday? What's most important to you? Career, stability, adventure, or something else? Of course, compromise is an inherent part of any relationship, but compromise has its limits. There's a difference between meeting someone halfway and sacrificing parts of yourself purely to maintain peace. The former strengthens your bond. The latter erodes your sense of self. So ask yourself, are you and your partner truly constructing a shared vision for the future, or are you attempting to force your paths to converge when they are naturally diverging? The answer may not come easily, but clarity is always worth the discomfort. If you realize that your goals don't align, it doesn't signify failure. It simply means you're learning to prioritize your own happiness and growth, which is the most courageous action you can take. Ultimately, love is about partnership. It's about building something collaboratively, piece by piece, with shared intentions and mutual respect. If your values and goals align, the journey will feel steady, even amidst challenges. But if you're constantly attempting to pull each other in opposing directions, the journey will only leave you both feeling lost, and you truly deserve so much more than that. The relationship feels. One-sided love isn't a ledger, but it also shouldn't feel like a solo endeavor. If you're consistently the one making plans, initiating contact, or making concessions to maintain harmony, you need to ask yourself if you're in a partnership or an emotional tug-of-war. What exactly does a one-sided relationship entail? It starts subtly. Perhaps you're always the first to text, dismissing it as simply their way. Or you're the one arranging dates, making sacrifices, or offering support while receiving very little in return. Over time, these minor concessions accumulate. It begins to feel as though you're pouring your heart into something that barely echoes back. Imagine spending hours meticulously planning a special date because you know it will bring them joy, only for it to conclude with no appreciation, no reciprocity, or even worse, they don't even acknowledge the effort you invested. Instead of feeling valued, you're left questioning if you're demanding too much or if you're simply not enough. And that's a wound love should never inflict. The truth is, relationships flourish on mutual investment. It's not about keeping score or tallying favors. It's about consistently showing up for each other in ways that make you feel seen, appreciated, and cherished. When the equilibrium is disrupted, when one person is perpetually giving while the other comfortably takes, it transforms less into a relationship and more into a gradual drain on your energy, confidence, and peace. Stoicism offers a profound lesson here. Epictetus famously taught, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." Ponder that for a moment. If your relationship feels one-sided, it's worth reflecting. Are you attempting to control what lies beyond your influence? Are you pursuing affection or validation that should naturally flow within a healthy partnership? If the effort to feel valued is exhausting, perhaps it's time to pause and question what you are truly clinging to. Let's delve deeper into some common scenarios. Have you ever noticed that you're always the one to apologize, even when you weren't at fault? Or perhaps you're the one compromising your aspirations, plans, and boundaries to keep the relationship afloat. These patterns don't emerge overnight. They begin subtly. Perhaps they cancel plans at the last minute, and you brush it off. Maybe they avoid difficult conversations, and you decide to let it slide. Over time, you convince yourself that being the understanding one is simply your role in the relationship. But love doesn't function that way. Genuine love inspires growth on both sides. If you're the only one showing up, adjusting, or putting in the effort, it's not love. It's emotional labor. So how do you address a one-sided relationship? It begins with honesty, first with yourself and then with your partner. Ask yourself the challenging questions, and if the answers make you uncomfortable, do not disregard them. One of the most potent tools in navigating this imbalance is pattern recognition. Start paying close attention to recurring dynamics. Are you consistently the one initiating communication, planning, or making sacrifices? Recognizing these patterns is the initial step toward breaking them. Next, initiate an open, honest conversation with your partner. Avoid accusations and instead focus on how you feel. The objective isn't to assign blame or keep score. It's to foster awareness and create space for change. A healthy relationship isn't about one person being flawless. It's about two individuals willing to grow together. If you've articulated your feelings, established boundaries, and still observed no change, it's time to make a choice. Stoicism teaches us to concentrate on what we can control. And here's the reality. You cannot control how someone shows up in a relationship. You cannot compel them to value you, reciprocate your efforts, or alter their behavior. What you can control is your response. This might involve stepping back, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. It might mean prioritizing your own emotional well-being over the fear of being alone, because ultimately, being in a one-sided relationship is far more solitary than being single. Always remember that. Love should feel like a two-way street, not a solitary marathon. If you're the only one putting in the effort, it's time to ask yourself, are you clinging to the potential of what could be, or are you honoring the reality of what is? A relationship that leaves you depleted is not love. And sometimes the greatest act of love is releasing what is not meant for you. So, as you reflect and take a step back, know this. You deserve a love that meets you halfway every single time. Do not settle for less. Not because you are demanding, but because you are worthy. Always. You can't be your authentic self. If you find yourself needing to diminish who you are to fit into someone else's world, are you truly in a relationship or merely performing a role? This can be one of the most challenging truths to confront, because initially, it's easy to convince yourself it's normal. Perhaps you begin by biting your tongue on minor issues, perceiving it as compromise. But over time, those small acts of holding back evolve into barriers, and suddenly you're uncertain of who you even are anymore. Let's imagine you're in a relationship with someone who possesses a passion you don't share, so you pretend to enjoy it. Maybe it's a hobby, a belief system, or even just their preferred genre of music. You laugh at jokes you don't find amusing, agree with opinions you don't hold, or force yourself to blend in with their friends even though you feel like an outsider. And those personal qualities you once cherished about yourself, the ones that made you feel unique, slowly begin to fade because you fear they would be too much for this person to handle. What's even more disheartening is that this dynamic can infiltrate vulnerable moments as well. You might hesitate to express your true feelings, whether it's work stress, excitement about a goal, or even doubts about the relationship, because you're unsure if they'll accept it. You end up self-censoring, carefully choosing your words and second-guessing their potential reaction. In the process, you lose the comfort and ease that should naturally exist when you're with someone who genuinely sees you. A relationship should feel like sunlight for a garden, fostering your growth, not suffocating your roots. Consider a thriving garden. Each plant has its own space to flourish. Some are vibrant and noticeable, others are subtle and understated, but together they create something lively and robust. Now imagine attempting to force every plant into the same shape or trimming those that grow too tall. The garden would not thrive. It would wither, and the same principle applies to relationships. This is where Stoicism offers further clarity. Marcus Aurelius once penned, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. Replace good man with true self." And you have a powerful reminder that authenticity is non-negotiable. Pretending to be someone you're not doesn't just cost you your peace. It severs your connection to your true purpose. A Stoic approach encourages us to live in alignment with our nature, not based on someone else's expectations. Ask yourself, when was the last time I felt completely at ease with my partner? Am I concealing parts of myself to avoid conflict or rejection? Do I feel seen and valued for who I truly am, or only for the version of me that conforms to their preferences? These are not easy questions, but they are essential because here's the truth. When you sacrifice your authenticity, you're not building a genuine connection. You're constructing an illusion, and illusions inevitably crumble under the weight of real life. Rediscovering your authentic self begins with small but significant steps. Start by reconnecting with the things that make you feel alive, even if they don't align with your partner's interests. Perhaps it's a hobby you've abandoned, a type of music you adore, or even simply voicing your opinion on something you care deeply about. These moments of self-expression serve as powerful reminders of who you are beneath the facade. Next, reintegrate that authenticity into the relationship. This doesn't have to be confrontational. It's about inviting your partner into your world. Share a story about why you love something, express an opinion you've been holding back, or allow them to see a vulnerable aspect of yourself. If their reaction demonstrates acceptance, that's a positive indicator. It suggests the relationship has the potential to evolve into something stronger, where both individuals can be their complete selves. However, if they resist or reject your authenticity, it's worth asking, am I building a future with someone who doesn't truly see me? Remember, the right relationship isn't about merging into someone else's life. It's about co-creating a shared space where both individuals can flourish as distinct entities while growing together. You shouldn't have to dim your light to make someone else comfortable. The person who is truly meant for you will celebrate your brilliance even if it differs from their own. So if you've been wearing a mask out of fear, habit, or even love, know this: it's never too late to remove it. The right person won't ask you to shrink. They'll make you feel secure enough to expand. And the moment you choose to live authentically, you unlock the door to a love that is genuine, deeply rooted, and unapologetically true. Your staying out of fear has a peculiar way of anchoring us to places where we don't truly belong. It whispers, "What if this is the best you'll ever experience?" Or, "What if you're doomed to be alone forever?" And so, we remain. We cling to a relationship that offers neither joy, fulfillment, nor growth, not because it's genuinely what we desire, but because we're too afraid to release it. Let's be candid. The mere thought of starting anew is terrifying. The idea of walking away from years of shared memories, routines, and plans feels utterly overwhelming. Perhaps you've invested so much in the relationship, time, effort, even aspirations, that leaving feels like an admission of failure. Or perhaps it's the apprehension of the unknown, the quiet dread of being alone with your thoughts at night, that keeps you holding on. And society doesn't make it any easier, does it? We're constantly told that being in a relationship, any relationship, is preferable to being single. But is that truly the case? It's perfectly acceptable to admit that leaving feels difficult. That's a natural human response. We all yearn for certainty, even when that certainty comes at the expense of our well-being. But you must understand that certainty is not synonymous with happiness. Being with someone out of fear doesn't stabilize the relationship. It transforms it into a cage. You deserve more than that. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." Let that profound statement resonate for a moment. Are you genuinely living your truth in this relationship, or are you merely existing? If fear is the sole factor keeping you tethered, you're not choosing love. You're simply evading loss, and there's a colossal difference between the two. Consider this. Fear doesn't forge connection. It doesn't ignite joy or cultivate intimacy. It creates a cycle of inertia where you remain stuck because the alternative feels too uncertain. Perhaps you dread the judgment of others, family, friends, or even society, if you decide to walk away. Or perhaps you've convinced yourself that no one else will ever love you in the same way this person does, even if their love is lukewarm or conditional. But the truth is that fear is a deceiver. It amplifies your doubts and diminishes your self-worth. It tricks you into believing that the unknown is worse than a life spent settling. And the longer you reside in that space, the more challenging it becomes to recognize your own potential. So how do you transcend this? How do you conquer the fear of leaving and step into a life where you can genuinely thrive? Begin by establishing a strong support system. Speak with people you trust, friends, family, even a therapist, about what you're experiencing. Sometimes, simply articulating your fears aloud can help you perceive them for what they are. Temporary obstacles, not immutable truths. Next, focus on personal development. When you're ensnared by fear, it's easy to lose sight of your strengths and capabilities. Reconnect with them. Embrace a new hobby, acquire a new skill, or pursue a goal that is entirely your own. These small victories will serve as powerful reminders that you are capable of creating a fulfilling life, even outside the context of a relationship. Relationships are among life's most beautiful, intricate, and challenging facets. They impart lessons about love, connection, and most importantly, about ourselves. Throughout the exploration of these 5 signs, we've deeply examined what it feels like when a relationship may not be the right fit. While this journey may not have been effortless, recognizing these signs is the crucial first step towards something better. So let me pose this question to you. Where do you see yourself in this video? Are you walking on eggshells, concealing your true self, or holding on due to fear? Or perhaps you're just beginning to notice the initial cracks in the foundation. Whatever your situation, take a moment to reflect. Grab a journal and ask yourself the tough questions. Am I genuinely happy? Do I feel truly seen and valued? Is this relationship fostering my growth, or is it impeding me? The answers you seek are already within you. All that's required is the courage to ask the right questions. If this video resonated with you, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend who might benefit from hearing these words. If you're still uncertain or have further questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll be reading and responding. You don't have to navigate this alone. Thank you for spending this time with me. Take care of your heart, trust your instincts, and most importantly, believe in your worth, because you are worthy of love, of joy, and of a life that feels completely, beautifully your own. Don't forget to subscribe and explore the other videos on this channel to continue learning and empowering yourself. See you in the next one.